So out of nowhere, we've just got a surprise free update for High on Life for the Switch 2. It promises an improved frame rate, a fresh coat of paint, and well, that's about it really. But honestly, that's exactly what I wanted. So let's dive in and see if we finally have the perfect portable version of High on Life. And before we do jump in, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. This is a smaller channel, so it helps a huge amount. Every single click, it just helps us keep covering these updates as well as new releases. So first, for anyone that hasn't played it yet, what exactly is High on Life? Well, at its core, it's a first-person shooter, but with a twist. And the setup is that Earth has been invaded by an alien cartel called the G3. Their plan? Harvest humans as a new drug. It is absurd, it's dark, it sets that tone immediately. Now you'll be playing as a somewhat down on their luck human teenager who, through sheer accident, becomes humanity's only hope. Now very early on, you'll meet your first talking weapon, that is Kenny, and that pretty much defines this entire game. The weapons here, they aren't just tools, they are characters with their own personalities, quirks, and constant banter. Sometimes it's hilarious, sometimes it's irritating, but it is always memorable. Now Kenny, that's the starting pistol, kind of equal parts cowardly and sarcastic. Then you'll pick up Gus, a shotgun-style weapon who's kind of laid back and supportive. But my personal favourite has to be Knifey. He's this unhinged, bloodthirsty knife who can't wait to stab anything in sight. So think enemies, walls, other characters, whatever he can get close to basically. He is brutal, he's ridiculous, he never shuts up. It makes him both useful in combat and a constant source of comedy. And it's not just the weapons stealing the spotlight, you'll also meet great characters like Gene, a washed up alien bounty hunter who becomes your reluctant mentor. He sets you up with a bounty license so you can go ahead and track down the G3 cartel bosses. The whole structure of the game, it's built around these bounties. Basically, go to bizarre alien worlds, track a target, fight through waves of enemies, and then face a larger-than-life boss at the end. It is part shooter, part comedy, and part sci-fi cartoon come to life. And when it comes to reception, well, when it launched back in 2022, reviews were mixed. Some people, they bounced off the humour immediately, and understandably. But personally, I enjoyed it. You know, back when I was running SwitchCorner, I reviewed it there. I'll link that video below. But I gave it a good 7 out of 10. The comedy worked for me, the worlds, they were fun to explore, and the gunplay, well, not groundbreaking by any means. It was solid enough to carry the adventure. And honestly, yeah, I stand by that score today. When it came to the Switch 1 build, however, things were, let's say, interesting. First off, I was impressed they even managed to get it running. I want to be upfront about that. It's not the biggest game ever, but the visual design here is demanding, and it takes you to some absolutely wild-looking places. On Switch, though, it was immediately clear that it was pushing way beyond the hardware's capabilities. Now, when it comes to performance, the target was 30 FPS, and to their credit, they mostly hit it. But dips into the low 20s, they weren't uncommon, and in certain busier sections, you definitely felt those drops. But how did they achieve this? Well, I'll tell you how. By absolutely gutting the visuals. I think it was one of the softest images I've ever seen on the system. The resolution was incredibly low, there was blur everywhere, it was hard to make things out. I even struggled to spot like objects in the environment. You're seeing Switch 1 footage on screen right now, and let's face it, honestly, it speaks for itself. But in comes the Switch 2 build, a version I didn't expect, but one I definitely appreciate. And to be clear again, it is free. That is a win for owners, and it's absolutely the right way to handle it, so kudos to the team there. But here's where my expectations may have tripped me up a little. So, let's start with the visuals, the positive first. It's a massive jump. We're not just talking clarity here, the worlds, they suddenly pop. The colours are vibrant, details that were once just smudges are now visible, and the shadow work looks genuinely impressive. The downside is that this new clarity makes some of the popping even more noticeable. Also the textured detail, there's some, low-res textures in here. You'll also see things like geometry and objects just snapping into existence throughout your playtime. But overall, it is really a night and day difference compared to Switch 1. Where things get tricky though is the frame rate. When they said improved frame rate in the description, I actually took that to mean 60 FPS. You know, this hardware is often compared to the Xbox Series S. Now on that system, High on Life runs at 1080p, 60 frames per second in performance mode. On Switch 2, there's no performance or quality mode here, it is still capped at 30. Yes, it's more stable than before, there's no denying that, but it's still 30. And for a first-person shooter, it's not ideal. You'll feel the difference immediately if you've played on other platforms. And look, don't get me wrong here, it is a smoother 30 than the Switch One ever managed. But I went in expecting 60, and what we actually have here is simply a tighter lock on that old frame rate. So improved, yeah, that word just feels kind of like an oversell. Even then as well, honestly, it's not flawless either. I saw dips to around 28 FPS in some busier fights, and that also comes with a subtle stutter that makes them feel more noticeable than maybe the numbers on screen suggest. It's not massive, of course, but again, you're going to notice it. So where does this, I guess, leave us? Well, honestly, with expectations recalibrated, I think a lot of us would go into this expecting a 60. Instead, what we're getting is a somewhat decent 30 FPS, but it's paired then with this huge visual boost. And that's probably gonna be the stable baseline for many ports, many upgrades in the near term. Just I think while developers truly learn the architecture. Still, the visual upgrade though itself is, in my opinion, a game changer. If you already own the Switch 1 version, you should absolutely grab this. It's free again, and it makes the game just far more enjoyable. If you don't own it yet, a different story. Look, the game hasn't really had a proper sale just yet, and at my original good 7 out of 10, I'd say wait for a discount before you dive in, because the experience is good, but yeah, it's not essential at full price. So yeah, overall, basically, it's a good update that didn't quite match my expectations. I've almost walked away with High on Life feeling like a reminder for the future to keep my expectations in check. But again, it's free. I know I keep on saying that, but that's a big deal right now because so many are charging. And what we are getting is better visuals, a steadier ride. And for the portable experience, that's a solid win. So will you be checking it out? Did you play it on Switch 1 already? And is this enough to pull you back in? Let me know in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video, do me a favor and subscribe. Helps out the channel a huge amount. Alright, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.